Alright, so I've had some mixed success with projects. Fortunately, one of the failures involved exploding a lot of ginger beer bottles, so I've got lots of spare blown glass to experiment with. So I've used my usual process and crushed it all up. Now I'm just going through straining all the fine contaminants out in superfine glass. So my plan there, these are remarkably resistant to smashing. So my plan is measure out a known quantity of glass into each of these, fire them in the kiln, possibly a little bit hotter than I did the last batch, and then I've made these jingery-doos, two of them that have a sort of a slot in them, which is roughly the right size to hold a slug that would have come out of this. And then pop that on there, put one of the slugs in there, obviously build a thing to hold that in place, and then have the reciprocating half go back and forth. So this is dirty. So that's had a lot of polishing. I would say probably about an hour of manual polishing. Come on, it's very hard to focus on a reflector. There we go. So it's not flat at all. It's very hard to see on a camera, but you see there's scratches in there. So I think there's a number of reasons for why big deep scratches happen. I think number one is low quality sandpaper. So I've got three different grits that I've been going through. There's 80, 240 and 320 in decreasing grittiness. So the higher number is a smoother, but little bits come out of the paper, the adhesive breaks, and then those are sort of ground between the sandpaper and the surface, and that gives you deeper scratches than you'd otherwise want. And also little chunks, so there's sort of suspended particles in here that are quite hard to see, but when they come to the surface and pop out, then they also cause their own sort of damage. So my goal is to entirely automate the polishing process, because machines are infinitely patient, and then I can use a much softer abrasive such as titanium dioxide. By softer I mean finer abrasive, titanium dioxide, and it will do my job for me to a large extent. I can just leave it run overnight. So here we have the crushed up glass. It's got a lot of water mixed in, and I want to be able to precisely weigh an amount of glass. So I've got it sitting in this broken old electric fry pan to boil off all the water. And there's a fair bit of water in there, and this fry pan is like, and the bottom of that pot is like, but so I put some oil in there to fill in the gap between the two to transmit the heat. Might be a terrible idea. We'll find out. So there's 145 grams of glass in each little thing. So now I'll bung it in the kiln and melt them down. Alright, it's the next morning, and I had a horrifying realization in the shower last night. That I didn't put any bat wash on the 132 degrees. That's cool enough. I didn't put any bat wash on the muffin tin. So this could be horrendous. Looks like the glass might not have fused. That's an interesting sound. Safety glasses on. So yeah, the bat wash is what prevents the glass sticking to the metal. I didn't put any on, so the glass may have stuck to the metal. Now they've got wildly different coefficients of expansion, thermal expansion, so they shouldn't stick too well, but yeah, that was a big old boo-boo. So I'll let it cool down, and we'll see how much glass stuck to the metal. Bye-bye. That was a disaster. So I had to thoroughly mutilate the muffin pan to get the cups out. And on the surface, they look great. I've got some great photos of this weird red oxide that formed on the bottom. It's brilliant burgundy colour. So on the top, they look good. Nice and solid, well tempered, but I peeled one off and it was not good at all. Let me mount the camera. So yeah, this is what it looks like on the underside. Lots of big voids. Which you generally want to avoid. But yeah, this sucks real bad. So I suspect the problem is that the coating on that muffin tin, there's a nice big bubble there, the coating on the muffin tin started to break down at high temperatures. So after the glass had liquefied, the coating on the muffin pan turned into a gas and bubbled up underneath. This coating is stuck all over it. This sucks. Feels funny. But yeah, so I don't think these are going to be useful at all. And there's all this stuff that seems intractably glued to the glass. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to clean that off to reuse this glass, or if all this glass is just a write-off. Alright, well, now I've learned that I need to pre-fire the muffin tray to burn off all that stuff, and then scrub the bejesus out of it, and then coat it in bat wash, and then put the glass in. But, you know, I may actually be able to use these for the intended purpose if there's enough structural integrity to hold them, because I'm only interested in polishing this side. This side is not interesting to me. But if it's not dimensionally stable, then, or if it's dangerous to handle, I haven't cut myself yet, it might be no good. So, I don't know. Bye-bye. So, I just put this briefly over the Lanisher in my handy dandy polishing jig that I built, just as a test. It works great. The glass is quite hot, but yeah, it's just got two levels of plywood with two different size holes, and it slots in there and holds it steady. So when I'm actually doing the high grade polishing, I'll put a thin piece of foam or cloth between the wood and the glass so it has a little bit of freedom of motion. But I put this in just to test whether the used glass slugs would be okay for the polishing testing, and the answer is no. So you see these deep, well, these light coloured scratches through that way. That's when a chunk of this loose edge here came off and just ground straight through, ruining the finish. They're flattish, flatter than I thought they'd be, but you can see down here we've broken through into a bubble already. So these are going to shed too much material. Even if I tidy up the edges on a grinder or something and then move on to polishing, these still are going to shed too much material to be useful for that. This sucks. Alright, well, live and learn. I'll go buy a new muffin tin and fire it before I put any glass in. Alright, bye bye.